And here you were scrolling away thinking, man, I really wish there was another AITA story from Dusty Thunder. Well, here I am. Let's do this. Am I the asshole for embarrassing my wife in front of our friends by not going along with her lie? Ooh, sounds spicy. When my wife and I got married, we were both working. Once our first child was born, she wanted to quit. Completely her decision. I started working more to compensate and she started taking care of the house and the kid. I am a pretty clean person and I help whenever I could or if she asked. I am an involved parent. Then we had another kid and I started working even more. At the end of 2019, my wife flew to her home country to visit her parents. Airports were shut down and all the flights were canceled before she could come back. There was a lot of red tape to unravel here and we couldn't get her back home until May. Like I said, the only reason I didn't do household works is because I was working too much and I discussed that with my wife and she was also okay with taking care of the household. I have lived alone for several years and until she quit her job, I always did my share of everything. I'm pretty far from helpless. At first, I freaked out a little as I couldn't work from home and I had kids, 7 male and 2 female, to take care of. In the end, I figured it out. I was stretched a little thin, but it was nothing unmanageable. My wife came back home in the beginning of May 2020. She was very happy to be home and we were all happy to have her back. There didn't seem to be any problem. A few weeks ago, we were having dinner at her house with one of our couple friends when my wife told them that I was miserable without her, that the kids were miserable, that the house was a disaster, and that she had so much stuff to clean up, etc. She basically said that I was helpless without her and that I couldn't take care of anything while she was gone. I kinda chuckled awkwardly. I told her that the kids and I were definitely miserable sometimes because we missed her, but nothing other than that was true. I told her not to lie about me or my ability to take care of the kids. After dinner, she was extremely mad at me and told me that I was a jerk and that I should have just played along. She told me that she felt awful that I could manage everything without her, and she felt that the kids didn't need her and that she was insignificant. I obviously tried to tell her that it wasn't the case, but she kept yelling at me and made me sleep on the couch. Here's the thing, just because she isn't employed doesn't mean she can't work or doesn't know how to work. Similarly, just because I don't do things now doesn't mean I can't do it. I think it's demeaning to have me pretend that I'm a man-child who has to be babied, doesn't know how to do basic things, cannot take care of my own children, just so she can feel better about herself. I do not think it's right to portray me as an incompetent person because she feels insecure. However, she is still really upset and I am not sure anymore. Am I the asshole for not going along with the lie? No. I'm gonna say you're not the asshole at all, OP. Well, you know what? I say that. Let's reference the ascon scale here because ascon 4 is you probably could have approached that differently. Maybe you're an asshole, maybe you're not. And I think you're probably on a 4 here. So you're like the littlest bit of asshole here because you could have just waited instead of confronting it head on and making a scene out of it. I'm not saying you had to do that, you could have done it. As a reminder, ascon 3 is you should have approached that differently. ascon 4 is you could have approached that differently. So you're not an ascon 3. You're an ascon 4. Maybe you're an asshole, maybe you're not. You definitely could have approached that differently. And I say that only because doing it in front of people made it a bigger scene than it needed to be. Obviously, this was a much bigger issue than you thought it was, and yes, she was wrong for what she did, much more of an asshole than you are. However, this is probably something that should have been handled in private. It sucks for both of you, and maybe this isn't everyone sucks here kind of thing. I'm glad that you stood up for yourself and that you said, no, I'm not incompetent, like we made it work. Her pretending that you didn't sucks, and I understand that she did that to like justify her role, but that's not needed. In a marriage, as parents, it is very much it's a team sport. Marriage and parenting are team sports 100%, and being able to pick up, I don't want to say the slack, but being able to jump in and help where needed for things that the other parent typically covers when you need to do those things is critical, because shit happens in life and shit happens to individuals in marriages. And when that happens, the other parent has to step up in order to just maintain and prevent the whole world from falling apart, because it can very quickly. You could turn around and a month's worth of laundry is piled up and nobody has anything to wear. And when you have kids, that's a problem, right? So even just simple stuff like that, or going to the grocery store or just cleaning up, like if one person is completely out of commission, and in this case, his wife was, he had to take on all of those duties and it wasn't optional. Failure was not an option here. He had to step up and do it, so that's what he did. Her pretending like he failed completely is the shitty part here. So him calling her out in front of everyone is not as shitty as her lying about what happened. He just could have approached it differently. So I don't know. You tell me, what do you guys think? I think he's an ascon 4. His wife is a bigger asshole by letting her insecurity basically perpetrate a lie that, she was telling everybody and threw him under the bus for something that never even happened. So I'm not going to say that she's a terrible person for it, but she's definitely a 2. I think that makes her a 2 for lying about it and being willing to damage him and his reputation just to make herself feel better. That's a shitty thing to do, and it was a very selfish thing to do. I understand how she feels. Like, it's good to feel needed, right? Sometimes, until your kids need you too much, and then you're like, I just need a minute. I just need a minute. Or like Chili Healer, I need 20 minutes where no one says anything to me and nobody asks me for anything. Mom just needs 20 minutes. It doesn't mean that you love your kids less. Sometimes you just need a minute. And I'm sure that the dad, the OP in this situation, now that he's got his wife back, which by the way, like, it's got to be this breath of fresh air. Like, oh shit, I survived. Like, finally I made it. And then when you expect life to return to some kind of normal, then you have to deal with this brand new issue of her feeling insignificant because you survived. Like, it's not complicated enough. Let's make it even more complicated by throwing some insecurity into the mix here. My God, just give the man a break, right? Like, he just ran a marathon for what sounds like 4 or 5 months until she was able to return, and now she's thrown him under the bus by lying about him because she's insecure. Like, dude doesn't have enough to deal with right now. There's no break involved here. OP, an apology for calling her out in front of everybody will probably go miles here. She does need to understand that what she did was wrong, and do not tear that boundary that you created down. It is not okay for her to lie about it, but you do need to further explain and say, I didn't have a choice. Failure was not an option here. I had to step up for the sake of our children and our household, and so that when you return, you weren't walking into a giant mountain of shit to deal with. If for no other reason, for her benefit when she returned should be enough to ease this situation. So it can be smoothed over. What she did was up. Hopefully she repents for that as well. You're an ascon 4, maybe, barely. Standing up for yourself doesn't necessarily make you an asshole. It could have been done differently, and that's it. But your wife's a 2, so you guys both got some things to work on here, okay? Okay.